Are you tired of having to build the same thing over and over when you could instead just be copying and pasting it? Well, if you are, this video is perfect for you because I'll be showing you everything you need to know about how schematics work with the Create mod, including how to use someone else's schematics or even make your own schematics. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now there are 4 different items that have something to do with schematics. The first is the Schematicannon, which you can place down, and this will allow you to automatically place down your schematics. The second is the schematic table, which is where you'll be able to add a schematic onto this item called the empty schematic. And the final item is the Schematicannon quill, which allows you to select an area and then save it as a schematic. To craft the Schematicannon, you need 1 dispenser, 2 smooth stone, 2 of any type of log or wood, and then 2 blocks of iron. To make the schematic table, you need 2 smooth stone and 3 of any type of wood slab. To make the empty schematic, you need a piece of paper and light blue dye. And to make the Schematicannon quill, you need an empty schematic and a feather. So to use this schematic table, you can right click on it and it will open up this menu. And this is where you can bring your empty schematic into this slot, and if you have a schematic downloaded, you can scroll to all of your available schematics with this bar, and you can open your schematics folder to drag schematics into it by clicking this button. So if you go to something like createmod.com and then you download a schematic, you can then open this folder and drag that schematic in here, and then once you go over to this schematic table, and if it doesn't show the first time, you can press refresh files, and then it should show up. And once you scroll to select the schematic that you want, and you have your empty schematic in this slot, you can go ahead and click this button, and it will start uploading that schematic to that empty schematic item. Then you can put this back in your inventory, and you'll notice that whenever you hold this in your hand, you get this box that is outlined in this kind of light blue color. And what you do with this is you go ahead and right click once you have it in a spot that is close to where you want it to be. And with these ghost versions of the block, there are some things that you can't see for some reason, like the shafts on the gearbox or just regular shafts in general. There's also a belt here that we can't see, and it also won't show any placed liquids in the schematic. But if you have this schematic in a general area, but not in the exact spot you actually want it, or you want to rotate it, you can hold down left alt, which will bring up this little blue menu, and then you can use your scroll wheel to scroll between these different options. Now this first option allows you to move your schematic horizontally by holding down your crouch button, looking at any one of these 4 side faces, and then if you scroll forward, it will bring that schematic forward from where you're looking at it, and if you scroll it backwards, it will come back towards you, and this works on any of these sides. Just know that if you're looking at this side, it's not going to move this way, it's only going to move this way. So if you are looking at this side, it's going to go left and right, and if you're looking at this side, it's going to go forward and backward. And you'll also notice that if you try to scroll while you're looking at this top face, nothing will happen, and that's because you need to go to this next option by holding left alt and scrolling, and this one will allow you to move the schematic vertically. And unlike with the moving horizontally, you can look anywhere you want and scroll, and if you scroll up, it's going to move that schematic up, and if you scroll down, it's going to move it down. And this even works if you're not looking at the schematic at all. This third option called position is just like whenever you're first placing down the schematic, you get this same little box where you can look around to the place you want it to be, then right click once you have it in the right spot, and it will move the schematic there. And if you hold control, it'll bring that box closer to you so you can do smaller movements, but you're also able to do them in the air now. Because whenever you're not crouching, you can only look at a block to place it down, and if you look in the air, it's not going to let you place it, but you can place it in the air if you're crouching. And this fourth option here allows you to rotate the schematic 90 degrees around its center. And similar to the move vertical, this you don't have to be looking at the schematic to rotate it. You just have to be crouching and then use the scroll wheel. And no matter your direction, if you scroll back, it's going to rotate it counterclockwise. And if you scroll forward, it's going to rotate it clockwise. And this line here is going to be the center point that this whole schematic rotates around. So this fifth option allows you to mirror your schematic around the face that you're looking at. So if you look at this side face, it's going to have this bar here, which is going to tell you where it's going to mirror across. So we have our vault here and this dugout area here, but if you hold Control and scroll once, it's going to mirror that, so the dugout area is on the opposite side and the vault is on the other side as well. And you can do this as many times as you want on any side that you want, except for you can't do this vertically. And this final sixth option is only available in creative mode, but if you select this, and you have your schematic in the place that you want it to be, whenever you right click, it will just place down all the blocks in that schematic. And whenever I made this schematic, I had this drill waterlogged and water in front of this encased fan, but for some reason, schematics just sometimes won't waterlog blocks. So you may have to go in and place that water back. And for some reason, this also didn't place the water wheels either, which I guess can happen sometimes as well. So you may have to place back your water wheels if you had those in the schematic. But in addition to being able to place down schematics that you downloaded, you can also make your own schematics. And to make your own schematic, you can hold the schematic and quill in your hand, and the first thing you'll see is this ghost block. So what this does is whenever you look at the top of a block, it will set that ghost block one block above the block that you're looking at. And the same thing happens if you look at the bottom of a block. It will go one block below. But if you look at the side of a block, it will set the ghost block inside of the one that you're looking at. And then once you are looking at the block where you want to set the first position for your schematic, you can go ahead and right click and it will say first position set. And now you can drag your cursor over to another area, and to set the second position, you right click once you have it on the block you want. And let's say you accidentally placed it wrong and you didn't get everything inside the schematic that you wanted. Well, to fix that, you could either crouch and right click to remove your selection, but this means that you have to go select your first and second position again, or you can instead extend each of these faces by crouching and scrolling. And then if we look at this face and we scroll back, it's going to scroll back towards me. And if we scroll forward, it's going to scroll forward away from me. And if we look at this top face, even though we can't see the top face through the blocks, we know we're looking at it. So we can go ahead and hold crouch and scroll back to encompass this area as well. And we can even look at the faces from inside the schematic area. So you can be inside the schematic and push this wall along. Or if you made it too large, you can pull it back by scrolling backwards. And then you can go and check the box around your entire area and make sure that it has everything inside that you want. And once you have the whole area encompassed for your schematic, you can go ahead and right click again. And this will bring you to an area where you can name your schematic. I'll just name this one corridor because that's what it is. But you can choose to name this anything that best suits your build. And you also can put spaces in this, but whenever it uploads this as a file, it's going to put a underscore rather than a space. But for this one, I'll just keep it as the name corridor. And if after you go into this menu, you realize that you didn't want to make this a schematic at all, you can click this discard button and it will just remove your selection. And that way you can go make changes or do anything you want before you make it a schematic, or you can just not make it a schematic at all. And if you want to change one little thing in your schematic before you do this and you don't want to have to discard your entire selection, you can go ahead and press escape and it will keep this box around your schematic. then you can go do whatever you want. Say I wanted a stone brick here. Then whenever you open this schematic and quill back up, you'll still have that position selected. Then you can right click it again, and you will have to rename it. But there's also these two other buttons. And this first one is save, which will automatically save this schematic to your schematics file. So you can go open it in the schematics table. And the second one is save and upload immediately. And what this does is it will save the schematic file to your schematics folder, but it will also just immediately turn this schematic and quill into a placeable schematic. But then you can click save or save and upload immediately, and you can see it says saved as corridor.mbt. And now if we go over to this schematic table, we'll be able to see that we now have that schematic file in the table, which we can choose from. And you're also able to take an existing schematic and re-upload it with a different schematic file. So I have the iron farm schematic from earlier on this schematic, but if I set this to my other corridor schematic and then I click this check mark, it is going to re-upload that schematic with the other file that you chose. So now we can go ahead and place down our schematic since I want this hallway to be longer. So we can move this down a block so we set it into the floor like this one is. Once we have it placed, I will show you how to use this Schematicannon. We'll need to place down the Schematicannon close to wherever you placed your schematic. Then we can go ahead and open the Schematicannon by right-clicking on it, and we'll get this menu, which has a bunch of different slots. And the first thing you'll need to know is that you can place that schematic that you set down earlier into this slot here. And once you've done that, you may see that it says out of gunpowder. And that's because for the Schematicannon to work, it needs gunpowder. So we can go ahead and place gunpowder in this slot. And we see that I placed a stack of gunpowder and it already used up one. And if you hover over this bar here, you'll see that it says it has 100% of one piece of gunpowder left. And each gunpowder allows you to place 400 blocks. And with a stack of gunpowder, you can place 25,600 blocks. Obviously, this Schematicannon can't just produce the blocks out of thin air. It has to get them from somewhere. Otherwise, you could just place any block you want and just have effectively infinite of that item. So if you don't know what items you need exactly, there is this slot here where you can place either a clipboard or a book that you will be able to put a checklist in of all the items that you need. So if we put a book in here, you'll see that it turns that into a material checklist. And the same thing happens if we put a clipboard in. It will write on that clipboard and name it material checklist, which we can take both of those into our inventory. And then we can go ahead and open up your book or your clipboard and it will tell you what items you need. And you can scroll through the pages of the book by pressing these arrows. Or you can go into the clipboard, which is a bit more detailed since you can manually click on these little check boxes to check off the items that you already have. And you're also able to see the picture of the block rather than just the name like the book does. And now that we have our checklist, we can go ahead and place down something to hold items directly next to our Schematicannon. And then we need to put all of these items into this chest. And as you go along, you can either manually check off the items that you have, or you can go back into the Schematicannon and put your material checklist into this box again, and it will automatically check off any of the items that you already have, and you can continue putting your checklist in as long as you need to get the items that you need. And once you have everything checked off, you'll know that this has the items it needs to build. But even if you didn't have quite enough of everything, like say you were missing an expensive item that can take you a while to get, even if you don't have it, we can go into this Schematicannon, we can press this button called show printer settings, and that will open up these options. And the one you want to have on for that is called skip missing blocks. It basically says that if the Schematicannon knows it doesn't have the right amount of blocks, it is just going to skip over those blocks. And once you get those blocks later, you can go ahead and tell the Schematicannon to place them down There's also these options here which can tell the Schematic to not replace any blocks that are already there with this first option. This second option, replace solid with solid, will tell the Schematic that if there is a block in the way of a block that needs to be placed, it can replace it. But if there is a block that is inside of where the schematic needs to be placed, but the space where the block already is only empty space, you can do this so it doesn't remove that block. Say if you had something in there that you want to keep in there, this is a good option. Or you can do replace solid with any, and this will either replace a block that is inside of the area for the schematic with a block that needs to be there, or it will just remove the block that is already inside if it doesn't need to be there. And this final one is replace solid with empty, which will clear out all of the blocks already inside of the schematic area. And this final option here is protect block entities, which when enabled will tell the Schematic to not break any blocks that can hold items inside, such as chests or barrels. And if you couldn't tell already, if the option is green like this, that means it is enabled, and if it's grayed out, that means it's disabled. And now that you have as many blocks as you can give this Schematic, it'll say ready, which means it's ready to start placing down blocks. And what we can go ahead and do is click on this left play button here to tell the Schematic to start placing. And if you want it to stop placing at any point, you can just press this stop button and it will stop placing the blocks. Or you can press this pause button in the middle here, which will tell the Schematic to pause temporarily and not lose its place like it would with this stop button. And then whenever you're ready to unpause it, you just press play. And if you have everything ready, you can go ahead and press play and exit the menu, and you'll see that it's gonna start placing down blocks, and it's going to continue doing this layer by layer until it has placed down all of the blocks. And it's missing a couple blocks, and that's because I specifically took out the oak logs to show you that it can place down the other blocks even if it doesn't have all of the ones that it needs. So now we can just watch this go and wait for it to be done. And we can see that it just stopped, and we can go ahead and go over here and see why that happened. And we can see that it ran out of gunpowder, so we can go ahead and give it some gunpowder and it will restart placing those blocks. Alright, and it seems it has finished. So we can go over here and we can go ahead and take out this empty schematic. But if we come back in here, we can see that it still hasn't placed all those logs, and it forgot to place down these stairs here. And if we go in here, we can see that we had it set to replace solid with solid, which is a good option, but stairs aren't technically counted as solid since they're not a complete block, which is why it didn't actually place down these stairs. So you can either go place down those yourself, or you can reset the schematic file, put the schematic back in the cannon. We can even check the checklist, and we can see that it's only missing 15 oak logs, but we can go ahead and set this to replace solid with any instead, and we can see if that gives us a different checklist. And there it is. So just know that if you have a block in the way and it's trying to be replaced by a block that isn't considered a full block, you will need to set it to replace solid with any, so it will actually place it down. But now we can go ahead and put our blocks in from earlier that we didn't have yet. We can set this to place down the blocks, and it'll place down those last few blocks. And we can see that it's not trying to replace any of the other blocks that we already placed from before. It's just going to place down the ones that it missed. And now we can see that our corridor is complete. And then we can go ahead and go into our chest and pick up any extra blocks if you put them in there. And we can also take out the gunpowder and our empty schematic. And that is a nice thing about this Schematicannon. It does give you back your schematic, so you don't have to make a new one every time you want to place a schematic down. Hopefully this video helps, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have in the comments down below. And while you're down there, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button. You can become a member if you want to help support the channel even more. And I will leave a link in the description to this corridor file if you want to play around with downloading schematics, or you just think it's a cool build. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.